The new Last of Us episode might have just changed everything, only for the better. In about an hour, every problem I had with the prologue of the game got fixed. So allow me to break down the entire episode part by part to explain exactly what HBO did right and what they fixed. Let's begin. Firstly, Abby's nightmare. While at first I was curious as to why we learned so quickly of Abby's big plan, now looking at something so simple and short like the nightmare in the beginning of the episode, I can understand right away that Abby has her own reasons to kill Joel. And yes, we already knew that. But a nightmare really helps put it all in perspective of just how much damage Joel caused Abby mentally and the sheer pain she goes through because of his actions. Really makes you think on who is right and who is in the wrong, further emphasizing the whole idea of The Last of Us Part 2 in a much more direct and clear to understand way than the game ever did. See, in the game, we don't learn this until we play as Abby, and by the time we play as Abby, we are already too deep in our hate to understand her at all. This nightmare helps us once again understand both sides from the very start, something the game needed in its approach at the duality of both good and bad. Secondly, Abby crawling in the snow. While this part isn't exactly something the game lacked, in fact, it was one of the cooler parts of the prologue, it was just way too cool to not add in this video. The whole concept of so many cordyceps rushing Abby as she crawls like she's in the trenches while the fence is slowly collapsing due to the buildup of the cordyceps is such a beautifully made scene and gets all the right emotions for this episode. Fear and anxiety literally built up my spine as I watched Abby narrowly survive this crawl just to be attacked. And oh man, the show is really good at making me feel for Abby because I was rooting for her so much when the runner got shot, only to drop all emotions realizing it was Joel. Another beautiful thing in this part is that we get to see Joel's daughter instinct and how he will always try his best to protect every little girl because he couldn't save his own daughter. But all my happiness died when I remembered what was to come.
Get up!
3. Dina replacing Tommy. I know a lot of people were mad at the fact that Dina replaced Tommy this episode to give Joel company when he plays golf. But you have to understand how bad of a mistake this was in the game. See, Tommy is a veteran, an ex-Firefly, and someone who survived the entire apocalypse. So when he makes the mistakes he does in the prologue, it comes off very sloppy and plot-based rather than genuine. If you don't know what mistakes I'm talking about, I'm referring to the fact that Tommy says his and Joel's name in the lodge to Abby and her crew, while also he goes with Joel to the lodge itself, further just ruining his own abilities for the plot. Look, there's no way you expect someone to believe that Tommy of all people would trust random strangers with his and his brother's names. This is where Dina comes in. Being a naive character who has no experience in war or life-threatening situations, Dina is the best choice for this episode. She instantly makes the mistake of saying Joel's name, and the thing is, it all makes sense. She trusts people rather easily, since she hasn't seen or been through what Tommy would have gone through. She also is someone who would get scared of the cordyceps ambush, thus not thinking everything through like someone as a veteran, such as Tommy. Dina being with Joel fixes one of the biggest plot holes in the game itself with the silly mistakes and the Jackson invasion, which I believe Tommy would be very important to beating. Therefore, this is a route I love the show took. 4. Jackson invasion. I think one thing everyone who played the prologue wanted was to see this invasion. I mean, the city we call our home, arguably the safest place in the world as of what we've seen in the 2 games, now under a full-blown invasion was crazy. And HBO did not disappoint, spending an insane budget and just overall killing it with this crazy invasion. Crazy fights, crazy dogs, and my favorite bit about it, just how Tommy rocked. This is further reasoning to Dina being selected with Joel instead, because Tommy was most certainly needed in an invasion like this. And honestly, his scenes, along with all of Jackson, was a beautiful contrast of the Joel and Abby sequence just because of how calm it felt, compared to the chaos in Jackson. I love this part and I firmly believe we needed this in the game as well. This was one of those things that the game just ignored. And while it makes sense that you can't just play two things at once, I felt like things such as the invasion were far more crucial to the player's experience than 15 hours of Abby. This would have given us such a beautiful understanding of the pain Jackson is about to go through, proving why Tommy getting revenge for Joel was a bigger mistake made in love than it was shown, which is so important when discussing Tommy's character. Also, it really would have given us a reason to not expect Joel's death even further, as why would a game put you through a long invasion mission only to do the unexpected and kill off our favorite character? 5. Everything Joel. This was amazing. Despite the casting, despite Abby's long yap session, this whole Joel and Abby moment was so cool, and I wish the game showed us more of this. I also just loved how everything in this monologue by Abby reflects the idea of duality, right? Look at the scene in general. The lighting in a no-light room shows us that both Joel and Abby are heroes in their own way, thus the natural light, but villains in someone else's eyes, thus the no light in the room. Then the way Abby explained her pain, her anger, and Joel understood it. This was something I really wished was in the game, because I believe that Joel would understand Abby wanting him dead. A kid who lost her father because Joel chose his kid. And the thing is, it would honestly make the game make sense for players who waited 7 years just to lose Joel with no clue why. See, the thing is, Abby isn't in the wrong at all. Her father died without meaning. And for 5 years, she chased and hunted so that she could avenge him. This trauma, anger, and pain buildup really was shown in the best way possible when Abby finally started swinging, just losing control and taking years worth of pain out on Joel. This acting was so top notch, and I really just loved how everyone in the room got scared, clearly showing us that they underestimated Abby's anger over the years because she stood on business. 6. Ellie. Finally, it comes down to the most perfect moment in the episode. Ellie. Now look, Ellie's reaction in the actual game was perfect as well, and served to show us the raw emotions she had, the hate building, and the pain to see her father die. But seeing Bella Ramsey give the most heartfelt acting I've ever seen, and then crying beside Joel's body was something else. It wasn't just anger and pain, it was the first wave of Ellie's emotions. We didn't see too much of it. Sadness, raw tears, and emotions, something that will only help us feel worse for Abby and help fuel her anger later on in the show. That is about it for my favorite things this episode and how they reflected the game or fixed the mistakes Last of Us Part 2 made. Thanks for watching.